Welcome back to episode 76 of In the Shadow of the Evening Trees. I'm Jenn Von Evers.
I'm Dave Von Evers.
And welcome back.
And this is a bottle of tequila from our vacation.
Mexican vacation.
And we can call this episode Celebrating with Tequila.
Yes.
We're going to actually have some.
We're going to have some.
If
we just cracked it open.
We did, although we haven't taken any yet. If you're listening to the audio, we have a fifth of a variety of tequila called Sabor Maya, which we got in Cozumel, and there's a story behind it.
Yes.
But I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes.
We're going to pour.
We're going to have some first. We've got our rocks glasses ready.
We do.
Thank you.
Say when.
That's good.
We're going to be judicious. Because I think it's actually against the law to podcast and drink at the same time.
Probably, yeah.
It should be. It should be. I think there's a lot of dudes who do it. or they spark up and podcast.
Exactly.
But here we go. Cheers. Now we're going to find out how it tastes with toothpaste and mouthwash.
Yeah.
We
should have had a palate cleanser. I could have had a popsicle.
Yeah, since I'm nice to my spouse and I brush my teeth before sitting this close next to her.
That's nice.
It is nice, and frankly, the toothpaste doesn't really matter.
Yeah. We'll talk about that on our, as we talk, this episode is about our vacation, basically what we're going to talk about.
That's what we plan.
Then all of the stuff that we got to do and why we picked Cozumel and all that. So where to begin?
It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah. I guess we can begin with, this was 5 years ago for our 25th wedding anniversary. We just celebrated our 30th a couple weeks ago. We were going to go to Cozumel and we had our trip all planned and everything. It was April of 2020. So obviously that got canceled, and then we've taken various vacations since. And when we were talking about our 30th, we were just throwing all sorts of things on there. Dominican Republic.
Not Ireland. I was specifically told we could not go back to Ireland this time.
Yes, we were going somewhere else.
I would have gone to Ireland.
We're just doing Ireland vacations.
It's one of my favorite places in the world.
But we will probably go again, but I definitely wanted to go somewhere warm because our wedding anniversary is in March, and obviously we've had a very cold and very, very cold winter here in Chicago. And it was just, one of those things like I love, that's my favorite, one of my favorite things is to go somewhere where it's really warm, where it's cold. And we were talking about it. I traveled in October, and David was walking, and it was like, the wind chill was like 5 degrees that day.
Well, I think that was early December.
Maybe the December.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been cold for a really long time.
Yeah. It has been cold for a long time.
Very bitter. True. So, in fact, so much that it actually snowed the day before we left on our trip. So that was like another sign of like, we got to get out of here.
And the day after we came back.
It snowed.
And once more during this past week.
First bite.
Although, to be fair, in terms of snow, this was not a bad winter. We had a few snowstorms, but it wasn't anything like normal.
No.
But the cold temperatures were
extreme.
They were extreme.
Yeah.
So it was cold, but not as snowy as it could.
The funny thing is when we were thinking of like where to stay, we had no evidence of where we were going or what. We booked that ourselves. Or David booked it. But we just kind of erased that from our memory. Yes. Can't remember the resort we were going to stay at or anything.
And it seemed like it would have been a nice place. So
yeah.
I don't know. Well, just by way of background, you mentioned that we were going to go in April of 2020 instead of March. Our anniversary is in March. But our youngest daughter our youngest child, who happens to be one of our daughters.
Yes.
Whatever. Well, I always get confused. So because we have 3 children, right? So she's the youngest of 3, but we have 2 daughters. So she's the younger daughter.
Right.
It's very confusing. This is why English is a terrible language. It's it's not even a real language. It's 5 or 6 languages it's kind of like, if the people who were planning the English language stole a bunch of cars, stripped all the parts, and then sold them. The result is the English language.
There you go.
If you think of the cars as other languages. But our youngest child, younger daughter,
yes,
was going to France with her French class in high school, and they were supposed to leave on March 17th. And that trip got canceled just a few days before. But anyway, when we knew she was going to be out of town around that time, we said, well, we'll just go on our anniversary trip later in April, because we didn't want to be gone. We didn't want to be out of town right before she left, and we didn't want to be out of town while she was in France.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense. So we planned it for April. But it was, I could not for the life of me remember the name of the resort or even its location. I mean, Cozumel's a big island.
And you would have emailed me the information as well, and I would have saved it somewhere, and we could not find it anywhere.
We must have been so mad.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get, I mean, we were able to cancel the trip so we didn't have to pay for the hotel, because it wasn't one of these things where we paid up front. But we never got anything approaching equitable restitution for our flights.
No. And the funny thing is,
when
when our daughter's trip was canceled, you know, when they told us, like, you know, go home for 2 weeks and everything like that, part of me was like, oh shoot, she's not going to go out on her trip, but we'll be able to go on ours.
Yeah, we
you know,
thought.
kind of thing. Like, it was going to be a turnaround that quickly, where it's just like, all right, everything's fine now. We just wanted to wait a couple weeks, see how it's going. So, so then once we decided, well, wait a second, we were going to go 5 years ago. Why don't we just go there? Neither of us had been there before. So that is a nice thing, to go somewhere new where you haven't been before. We did use a travel agent. And so the resort that at first we said we wanted an adults only resort. Not because
we wanted to walk around naked. No. That's not what adults only means.
That's a different kind of baby.
For you less savvy travelers. That's not what adults only means.
Not that we mind having little kids around, but we just thought, if that's an option, you know, we'll just do that. So one of the resorts that was there was called Secrets. Yeah. Your Secrets.
Which sounds like you're going to be walking around naked the whole time,
whatever happens stays there. Kind of thing. And then there was 2 other resorts next to it. And so, but our travel agent said it was like, that complex was like older. Ours had been built in the last 4 years, so it was newer and more amenities and stuff like that. So it was the nicer resort. So she's like, you can stay at the resort that we book you in, however you have access to the other 2 resorts, which was fantastic.
So they were all Hyatt properties, and they were all connected. There was kind of like a boardwalk along the beach that led to. And there were other ways to get from one to the other.
Right, but you didn't even have to like drive or anything.
Yeah,
it was
you didn't have to leave the property at all.
So that was nice. And we're actually glad that we did.
Stay at the family resort.
Yes. And so one of the things, well, I guess we should start first with, so we had no issues getting there. We arrived on Saturdays.
It was actually pretty smooth.
By the time we checked in, it was like 4 p.m. So of course our room was ready, which was fantastic. We immediately got on our suits and then was sat at the pool. So that was nice.
That's what you do.
And the temperature there is amazing. And I had watched the temperature pretty much for 2 months. You were probably sick of it. Like, guess what it is in Cozumel today?
I was looking forward to it also.
And very, the difference between the low and high is only like 5 degrees usually. Yeah. 78 low, 83 high. 78, you know, just perfect. Not buggy at all. So like when you're eating outside, it's not like you're shooing off flies and anything like that. So that was kind of nice. To beautiful breeze, amazing. So when we checked in, they gave us a thing of champagne. Yes. How nice. Yes, this is lovely and everything. And so we both watched videos of couples going on their vacation and talked about this Dreams Resort. So we visually saw it online, heard people talking about it. And one of the things that they had talked about is just beware of people trying to sell you like the timeshares and all that stuff, and just what to avoid. So we had specific instructions to go from the airport, from the plane. Don't walk right through the hotel or the airport outside to the company that's picking us. Our name was going to be on a list and everything, because the other people are going to try to get you, oh yes, we're your ride, and it's going to take you an hour and a half to get there while they're talking about the things.
Timeshares.
And I told David that, and I'm like, we got to beware, you know, everything. So we immediately step in the airport, and some woman's like, oh, what are you looking for? And I'm like, Amstar, you know, and they're like, yes, come in. And David's like, no, we're not following the instructions. We need to go down. So he saved me from that. So I was like, immediately almost got trapped by somebody trying to sell us something, and I was just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So that was like we're headed to the hotel. This is going to be fine. So immediately after we check in, then another gentleman sat us.
Who was working for the hotel?
Yes,
he was a hotel
person, and asked if we had wanted to plan any excursions while we were there. And we did. We had seen on their website. We wanted to try. I definitely wanted to snorkel for my first time doing that.
Snorkeling is good.
Snorkeling. And then there was like a Jeep tour that we wanted to find more information about. So he has the brochure of all the things like that. He's circling things, and he's talking about prices.
About the price and everything.
And he said, well, actually, if you come back tomorrow, either 8:30 or 11, I can give you $200 off the Jeep tour. If you just come and see me, we'll go to the resort next door, register you for that. And we were both kind of like, what? Like, what is that? But we're like, all right, whatever. So we get to our room, have a nice night the first night and everything. So after we got ready on Sunday, we went to the lobby of the hotel. And so we said we were here. And then this gentleman said, oh, Caesar, who was helping you, isn't here, but I can take you over to the next resort. We'll get you all situated. And then even before that, David's like, I don't think this sounds right.
Yeah, I was getting that bad feeling about it. But this whole thing was a rookie mistake, by the way.
So rookie.
And and we were forewarned about the timeshare business.
Yes.
So we should not have. But anyway, go ahead, because you're gonna tell our business.
I'm gonna tell our business
whether I want you to or not.
So this kid and I said, what is this? I said, what are you talking about?
And you were especially good about asking, but we asked multiple times what was going on.
And so when he was walking us over to the thing, he said, we're walking over to the next thing. We'll get you set up, for the Jeep tour and register you for that. And then there's a presentation or something like that.
I'm not even sure. Well, maybe he said that, but I don't remember him even saying presentation.
Yeah. And he goes, usually it takes like an hour and a half. Just tell him you did the hour and a half, sign your thing, and then you can come back. And so we're just like, what is going on? So we're in the lobby of the resort next to us and everything. And then another person comes over. And this young man, who was 27 years old, took us to breakfast.
Which we'd already paid for anyway, because it was an all-inclusive thing.
And so he's like, let me just tell you about this thing. So we're just like, oh my gosh, this is, we still didn't really know what was happening.
Yeah, we really didn't.
So he was going through a whole thing of like, how do you guys vacation?
Where do you go?
Where
How
do you
much
go?
do you spend?
Yeah.
What do you like to do?
Right.
What do you plan to do in the future?
Exactly. And so
which should have been a dead giveaway right there.
So he had talked to us for probably an hour and stuff like that. And then whatever he was explaining, he was trying to talk about like a website that's through Hyatt, that it's $185 a year, but it's like a portal where you don't have to use a travel agent. The pricing is better and everything. And so
sort of like an Expedia type thing,
yeah,
or hotels.com or Kayak or whatever, but you could access all their properties
around the globe.
You get better deals. If you found a better deal somewhere else, like through Expedia or whatever, they would not only match it, but they would chop 25% off or something like that.
So after all that, I was thinking, well, that's not bad. I go, is that the? So I asked the kid, I said, is that the deal? I said, is the deal the $185 a year for the portal? And he goes, plus the membership. And so I was like, what's the membership? You know what I think?
And there's the smudgeness.
Yes. So then we had to go back to our hotel. And then he's like, we can go up to the office and we can talk about there. So I'm thinking we did walk up the stairs. It was on the second floor.
And let me interrupt you there though, because what he did he gave us some vague information about pricing, and you said straight up, nope, not interested. And so you were great about that.
Yes.
But then like you said, we said, well, we still have to go back and go to the office.
Yes. So we walked there. It's on the second floor of where the reservation is.
On the video, you can see our cat Gordy behind us.
At least she's not crying at the moment.
No. Hi,
please don't jump up here.
We don't want to knock things over. We don't want to stop the recording.
We don't want to knock our drinks over.
We don't want to knock our drinks over.
So we walk up the stairs, and I'm figuring it's just like a desk, David and I, and whoever is going to be there trying to, like, the next salesperson, the next closer, who's going to try to get us to there. We walk up there, and I'm not kidding, there were 25 other families up there, desk after desk after desk after desk, huge video, TV screens, touch screen, showing all these destinations and everything, and I was just like, this is wild, I don't even know what is happening right now.
This was, there was, years ago, there was a British TV show called The Prisoner, and it eventually, our cat just jumped up there. It eventually ended up, PBS ran it, and it's a great show with Ian McEwan, and the premise is Ian McEwan was a spy. In fact, it's the last episode of the series Secret Agent Man is where Ian McEwan, as the spy character, he says he's retiring from the spy business, and he thinks everything is great, and then he basically ends up getting kidnapped, and he ends up on this island, and then that's where the series The Prisoner takes off, and he can't leave this island.
Oh my gosh.
And there's all these other people and they're all assigned numbers, and he's number 6. Anyway, that's very much what it felt like. It felt like you were trapped in an episode of The Prisoner.
It was crazy. So then the young man who had taken us to breakfast was there. His friend came over, and then, it starts talking about different options, different things. What was the biggest one? It was like...
but all of the stuff was outrageously priced. One of them was a deal, if you paid $350,000, you could basically have unlimited access to all their resorts.
You
could live in the resorts. You could spend a year in one resort and a year in... I mean, obviously, I don't think they actually believed they were going to sell us that package. Oh, and by the way, just as an aside, so the thing is, the thing is that it wasn't a timeshare.
It was not a timeshare.
And in fact, one of the things they were trying to explain is how this was a better deal than a timeshare, which was particularly hilarious.
Yes.
Very meta when you think about it. It's like a timeshare within a timeshare within a timeshare.
Yes.
But the idea was you could, if you were a member of the, whatever they called it, the Ultimate Vacation Club or whatever, then you'd get all these great deals. They would also, since they don't have any control of the price of flights, if you sign up and you're part of the thing and you make arrangements, and then after you took a trip and went to one of their properties, they would give you a $500 voucher each, I guess, that would basically go against the cost of your airfare. So you're also getting a deal on your airfare, even though they couldn't actually directly reduce the price of it. Anyway, whatever. So that was the deal. But the thing they were trying to sell us on, bear in mind, I am 62 years old. I'm about to turn 63 in April, right? They were trying to sell us a 30-year plan.
A 30-year or 50.
Yeah, right. There were other options, right? For $79,000.
Yes.
Now, I mean, we never got far enough to get into the details of that, but I'm assuming they're not expecting you while you're on vacation to write a check for $79,000. I'm sure it's something you finance over time. But the absurdity of it, and I was trying to say, I'm not going to be working I'm not going to be working till I'm 93 years old or whatever. God willing, I would make it to 93. At some point, people want to retire, and your income is not always certain when
and you're not going to be taking $10,000, $15,000 vacations, kind of thing like that.
And he made some comment like, well, but some people do. And I'm like, yeah, rich people do. We're not rich people. I don't even want to be a rich person, and we're not, and we're never going to be.
So I said, no, kindly, no.
You were great about this. This was fantastic. You weren't rude or mean.
I wasn't rude, but I was firm, and I was like, we're not interested. So then that gentleman got up, and then we have another person who's going to try to close again. It kept on going like a little bit down.
Well, what if it was only 10 years? What if it was only this number?
Right, and what if you could put this much down and you can finance the rest? I'm like, we've not even been here 24 hours, and you're not wanting to spend money on a future vacation, which we don't even know where we're going. So it was just crazy town. So we were firm. We said no. Long story short, it was an hour and a half at least.
No, I think it was over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think it was over 2 hours.
It was after. Yeah, because it was after 1. After we got out of there.
Yeah, I mean, if you count the fact that we were there on time,
Yes.
it was a good 2 hours.
Insane. And so it was just kind of like, and the funny thing is, throughout the week that we were there, if you bought into some kind of package deal that they have, they would put a little paper banner on your door, like a sash
on your door,
like "Welcome to the family," kind of thing, new owner or whatever. It was insane, and we were just like suckers. I'm sure that people either felt pressured to do something, or they did think, yeah, this is a good deal, and Hyatt is not going out of business. Yeah. That was the other thing. It's like, you're buying in advance of whatever this thing. There's certainly big corporations that go out of business.
Of course,
then what, kind of thing. Right. So yeah, that was a crazy start to our vacation.
And the thing is, like most sales pitches have some merit. Like for somebody that might make sense.
Right.
Somebody who, for example, because we were at the family resort, there were a lot of families with younger kids, and I could see, maybe not for the next 30 years, but I could see someone saying, well, we like this. We like to be able to bring our kids to this kind of thing. This is how we vacation. So we're trying to keep our cat from jumping off a dresser onto our desk.
Exactly.
But there probably is some person or family for whom this kind of makes sense, right? But clearly, we're not those people.
We're not the demographic.
We're not. Yeah, we're older than that. Our kids are all adults. We're not going to drag them to. They don't want to hang out with us on a vacation.
Stuck in a resort.
Yeah.
All time.
So it's like, they could have been completely BSing us, but they seemed like believe so deeply in what they were offering. And I just want to say, yeah, maybe for some people this makes sense. I don't think that there's probably no sales pitch that doesn't make sense to at least some part of the entire world's population, but we're not it.
And I was telling David, it reminded me when I first started, I got my real estate license at 21. And one of the things that I had to watch was like a Zig Ziglar motivational speaker kind of thing, The Art of the Deal. And it almost started like that. It's like how to close. The questions, open-ended questions, how to keep getting them to say yes to do that. So yeah, it was kind of crazy.
What gets me about sales in general is that, that all this strategizing, but the whole thing is, if you're selling a thing that people want, then they want it, and the trick is always finding that group of people who want the thing that you're selling. Because it may have tremendous value to somebody. And
afterwards, he said, "Oh well, I'll ask you questions, about how the first person was he kind?
Was like a customer survey.
Thing." And I said, to be honest, you don't have to keep people for an hour and a half to ask them if they want something like this. If it's something that they're interested in, you could ask them in 10 minutes, and then they'll be able to make a decision.
And just give them a straight, it's expensive, but here's why there's advantages.
Right. And you'd probably get a lot more sales that way, because it's just like cut to the chase, do everything, and then you're not wasting people's time. You're not wasting your time. Because all of these people and that person who was helping us, we saw him later in the week taking a couple to breakfast, and we're like, oh my God.
They were all very nice people.
Very nice.
They weren't like, and they kept saying, no pressure, there's no pressure. Mm-hmm. But there is, only in the sense that you can't get out of this conversation. Rookie mistake.
We're so rookie.
But we did get, I think, $250.
Yes.
$250 off of
which paid for our Jeep tour.
Yeah.
So that was.
So we ended up having a pretty good time, and I have to say, given how expensive these excursions were, I don't know if we would have done both of them. Maybe we would have. We wanted to, but in any event, we got one for free. So
exactly. So in that respect, and that excursion was from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 p.m. So
and so that the one thing I will say is as far as I know, nobody lied about anything. I mean, it's not like a fraud situation.
Correct.
And they did make good on the promise of the discount on the thing. So I got to say, it was annoying,
right?
But it wasn't anything overly sleazy. It was just time consuming.
Right. And
you said multiple times, we really want to start our vacation.
Yeah.
Because, we got in late in the day. We did spend a little time at the pool and we had a nice dinner and all that. But we hadn't really started our vacation for real.
Right.
And you kept politely, but very directly.
Firmly.
saying that we really want to start our vacation now. You'd think that they'd be sympathetic to that.
You would think so. But yeah, that was crazy. But that part was over and done with, and then we did end up doing 2 excursions. And it was kind of like, I thought it was the perfect balance of vacation.
One involved tequila.
Yes, and we will talk about that. The tequila, this is quite delicious, actually.
It is.
As I take a sip.
It's for sipping, not for shots.
And we had 2 big excursions and then a lot of relaxation in between, which was nice because then it's just kind of like, I don't like a vacation that's packed with so many things that you get back exhausted because you're just like, I didn't relax at all. I didn't just lay there, or stuff like that. And so that was nice. On Monday, we were very low key. We did things around the resort and everything.
But we did go into
Cozumel,
the city itself.
That is true.
Which is probably, 15, 20 minutes?
15, 20 minutes. Yeah, it wasn't far. And we actually ended up having a nice lunch at a restaurant that had like a second floor all open air, and we could see it was right out of the ports where the giant ships are. So
I was telling you, it reminded me of in St. Thomas, in Charlotte Amalie in St. Thomas. There was at one point one of those kind of open air things, and the same thing. You could see a nice view of the port and cruise ships and everything like that. But it was an Arby's. It was an Arby's in downtown.
Took me to Arby's.
Sure,
I had the roast beef.
I had the roast beef.
We are not cruise people, so no offense to anybody who loves cruises, but they're just so monstrosity, and it was cool to see them just that close because I think that's the closest I've seen them. So we did go into downtown Cozumel. Then in the afternoon, we ended up hanging out at our pool, and we met friends.
You'll be shocked to learn that Jennifer largely just introduced herself to random people.
Yep.
And not only that, you spotted them even before. Before we talked to them.
The one thing I didn't like about the resort that we went to is, the pool area that we were by didn't have a lot of chairs around it. But what happened is...
It's not that strong, but apparently I'm choking on tequila at the moment.
People would take a towel and put it on their chair and then maybe just walk away, not be even in the pool or anywhere around there. So... I saw this couple come, and the wife was pregnant, and I said to David and Mila, I'm like, they're on their baby moon. They are having a baby, and this is their last trip before their baby and everything. And she was asking, like, is there any chairs available? And I was like, well, you can use ours because we're in the pool and we don't have to get out or whatever. Yeah. So they're like, no. So somebody else gave up their seat or figured out that. So they came in the pool and could not have been nicer.
Yeah, very nice.
And we ended up talking to them then. We ran into them throughout the week. We hung out with them the last night, which we'll talk about that later. But just the sweetest couple, and the wife is expecting twins in 2 months.
And what's funny about it is, so they're obviously quite a bit younger than we are.
Yes. They could have been our children.
They could have been. And so we're from Kentucky.
Yes.
The vast majority of people we met on the trip were from the Midwest. Mm-hmm. There were people from, we're from Illinois. There were people from Wisconsin,
Minnesota,
a lot of Minnesotans.
Yeah.
Family from Nebraska and so forth. And all of the people that we met and actually talked to were very nice. But what struck me is not so much among the people we talked to, but just kind of the general vibe was a little rednecky in some
yes.
places. But it was like midwestern rednecky, like the people who live kind of around where we live.
Right.
It wasn't, this couple from Kentucky were like the nicest, most normal, down to earth people, and they were from like a small town too. They weren't from like Lexington. Well, I think they were near Lexington,
yes.
whatever. But still, in a smaller town, whatever. But it would just crack me up because there was a lot of kind of rednecky behavior among the Midwesterners, and then these people from Kentucky, from a small town in Kentucky, were like the most normal, lovely people, you know.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. I mean, I'm not trying to badmouth the other people who were there.
Yes.
But they were very low key, and I think because they're a little bit younger, they also struck me as a little bit more, I don't know, kind of modern. Let's just say modern.
And so we became friends
nice.
with them throughout the week, which was nice. So that was Monday. Tuesday was our Jeep tour. We had no idea really what we were getting into.
None whatsoever.
We just got the thing. The one thing they did ask us is basically, we did find out that you're driving, so it's not like there's some Jeep tours that you have a driver and you're just going to all these places and everything. So we thought that was cool, because then we were just like, okay, now we can drive in another country. It's on the right side of the street. It's not a stick shift.
Although it probably would have been okay if it had been, because
we could have done that,
we're used to that.
Yeah. So it depending on how many people sign up, there's a caravan of Jeeps they provide you with, and they said sometimes, if there's many people, are you okay with sharing a Jeep with 2 other people? And we're like, no, not at all. That's totally fine. So we were eagerly waiting outside of our hotel at 10 a.m. That was a nice part. We didn't have to go anywhere. They came to us and everything. And the Jeep was actually parked on the other side of the street kind of thing, of this little road and everything. So we got in there and we just kind of like drove to where we were all together kind of thing, and then we all got out, and then they told us like how it was going to work for the day. So we had 2 women from Quebec, Canada, in our Jeep, and they did not drive.
They were not Midwestern. They
correct.
weren't redneck.
They spoke French.
They did speak French.
And I want to say one of them didn't speak as much English. One spoke English a lot, and I think her partner didn't speak just a little bit of English, so she was always talking in French, which I thought was cool. Part of this Jeep tour was basically just doing a lot of things. They packed a lot of things into the day. Did
you mention that the couple in our car did not drive?
Yes.
Which was kind of nice for us, because we wanted to drive, and so we could just trade off.
Right.
And we didn't have to try to accommodate.
Only drive once, and then other people do that. Yeah. So the first place that we drove to was kind of like a little.
Pardon me, I'm having an incident. I think I'm like George Costanza. Yeah. I can't feel my arm. I'm having a heart attack. It's a nature reserve.
It's a nature reserve.
Like an eco park.
Yeah.
At the southern end of the island.
We just, all of us pull into the side of this thing, and we just parked our cars. We got out, and then we ended up walking like a little pier kind of thing. Immediately, crocodile.
Yeah.
Starts swimming up super close. So that was really cool.
And this was like, it was big. I always picture the cenotes, there's kind of like these underground tunnels that fill up with water, and then there are open air spots throughout the island. This is pretty common in Mexico, probably in a lot of Latin America. But I always picture the part where the tunnel comes up to the ground and you can actually jump in the water. I always picture that as being small. This was like a kind of like a big lagoon, but it was connected to one of these systems. I don't think they would have allowed you to swim in it.
No.
Partly because of the crocodiles.
Exactly. Who were probably like, oh, here come the people again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it swam right over to us.
Yeah. So that was cool. We got to see that and for a little bit and see birds, and there's there
were flamingos, and there was some other kind of bird that I don't recall, but also like a wading bird.
Mm-hmm. So we then got back in the car. And then we were going to the snorkeling after that, I believe.
Yeah, off the beach.
But this was the fun part, so getting to this place, the roads are like, just imagine like a million potholes on this thing.
Yeah, the guide literally referred to it as off-roading.
Yeah, so, and he's like, you can't go too slow, because then, you kind of like, you need to have like the suspension, kind of thing. And I was like, what is he talking about, kind of thing. So as we start to drive into it, it was literally like, you were just jumping up and down.
It was off-roading.
And everything. Every time we went into a bump, you couldn't avoid it. I mean, you couldn't even like navigate around it, because it was just like, there were just potholes everywhere.
And we're also following, there were, a couple of cars in front of us. There was at least one behind us. So we're kind of stuck in, and you have to sort of follow the Jeep in front of you.
And keep in mind, the ocean's right here. So we're right on the edge of the ocean here. So it's not like you can, even bypass that. But every time we went into like one of the divots and everything, the women in the back were just laughing hysterically. They just thought it was the best day.
So I drove the first part, which was from this group of resorts, not just our resorts, but a little bit further away, to where this nature park was, and then I drove through up to the point where we got to the cenote or lagoon or whatever you want to call it, and then you took over after that and drove another. So we basically traded back and forth.
Yes.
But I was feeling like, and they were laughing hysterically, but I was a little bit like, I kept going, oh, sorry, like an idiot, because of course you don't have any control over it. But they were laughing. So then after we did the lagoon and you could go up to the top of this observation tower and see. After we did that, we got back in the car, then Jennifer drove.
Yes.
And take it from there.
So what I did is I would let the car ahead of us go a little bit ahead, so it wasn't like falling directly behind. And it had rained a little bit overnight, so some of those potholes were filled with water and everything. And so I would just like rev it up, and then it just hit the gas and go through there, and then the water would splash. Meanwhile, it wasn't an open air Jeep, so we did have windows and air conditioning, which was nice. Right. But I would purposely go in there so that it would just splash up and go fast through all the divots.
I figured that out right away. Yeah. That's what you were doing.
And the ladies in the back loved it.
They were in hysterics, and they were probably relatively close in age to us.
Almost exactly our age. So that was super fun. So that went to the snorkeling part, and tequila tasting, and lunch on the beach.
I'm gonna hold up the bottle again.
Yeah. So that whole part was really cool. That was the first time I had been snorkeling. I was super nervous about it. David was amazing because he just like was with me the whole time and was just like, it's okay, we'll just take it slow and everything. The interesting thing.
What was I gonna do? It was just, you're on your own.
Yeah, see ya.
Hope there aren't any sharks.
At least that part, it was very shallow, so it wasn't very, and the waves, it was very calm. So that was good. And we did put on flippers, and then you kind of like backed into the water there before you went in, so you wouldn't like trip or anything like that. So the only part about that is, it had the snorkel where the water could get in from the top.
Yeah, it didn't have like the stopper or the valve.
I didn't even know that existed until later. So that was one of the things. As soon as I started to panic a little bit, like, oh gosh, I don't know if I could do this and everything. And then I was just like, just stay calm, put your face in the water. That's what you're here for and everything. And as soon as you do put your face down there, the beautiful fish that we saw, it was just spectacular. Amazing. And they're like, don't touch anything, don't pick anything up, don't take a souvenir, don't take a rock or anything like that. So, but anytime I like had my hands out and I would be like, I can't touch you. In my head, I was like, I can't touch you, but if you want to touch my hands, that's fine.
To the fish.
I was talking to the fish.
In your head.
In my head.
Yeah. And my problem was every so often I turn to like look at you, and then the water would come, because I've snorkeled before, but I don't know, I wasn't really thinking.
So that was like 40 minutes, and that was a good introduction to snorkeling because we were going to do a bigger one on the Thursday. And once we came up, they're like lunches they had like a little like restaurant kind of thing, open air kind of thing. It was covered, so we weren't in the sun, and like a beautiful buffet.
And the food was really good.
Fantastic.
The food was really good.
You could have 2 cervezas, but we were driving, so we did not drink.
The drivers were not allowed to drink.
Yeah, so
at this point,
they
did let us have tequila, but we'll get to that.
Yes, and so they had chicken fajitas. They had tortillas, cheese, fresh fruit. It was spectacular. So that was so nice. And then I did bring...
And that was unexpected. Like my thinking is, the point of this is the Jeep tour, the snorkeling, seeing the sights or whatever. It's not food. I expected something kind of like, mediocre, because that's, but that wasn't part of it. The food, I was like shocked how good it was. So good. Really fresh and everything like that.
And then like as soon as they had like picnic table kind of sitting, and then as soon as you walked with the plate, somebody was like, no, I've got the plate for you, go ahead. So that was good. And then the tequila tasting was after that. And I said to our guide, because he was like telling people, oh, we're going to start the tequila tasting. I'm like, do we drive there? And he's like, no, it's right here. And we're like, it's on the beach. They have this shack. And they have like a bar set up there, and like little tables, like kind of like picnic seats, kind of thing that were around and it was right there. So I was like, okay, cool. We don't even have to drive anywhere. So they did allow drivers to try to taste the tequila.
You're
We
just
did like
sipping
6.
little bits.
Yeah,
of
it was like a little sip of it, not even a whole shot for all 6 things. But we got to try different flavors. So this one that we had gotten, is this the one that's aged 12 years or something?
I think it's
like
a
that?
total of 12 years. They don't actually age it for 12 years. The theory, what they tell us. Now, I'm going to say, if you do like a Google search for this kind of thing, you'll find a lot of people online who will say this is all kind of a scam. Not this specific company.
Correct.
But the pitch that you get in places like Cozumel about tequila, local tequila versus what you could get in your local.
You can't buy it in the United States. Yeah.
This is actually, this is not available in the United States. So I don't know how accurate the information was. On the other hand, I think, the people who are on Reddit or whatever who are saying, beware of this kind of thing, it's a scam. I'm like, well, but what do they know? Like, I don't know whether they're some tequila expert or they're just making an assumption because it's in Mexico or because it's in a touristy location that it must be a scam. I don't know if it is or isn't. But their explanation for why this is a higher quality than what you can get, at a liquor store in the States, is that to properly make tequila, real tequila comes from blue agave.
Mm-hmm.
To properly make it, you have to let the plant grow between 8 and 10 years.
Right.
If you trim it sooner than that, you can distill it and get liquor out of it, but it's not going to be, for one thing, it's not going to be very strong, and it's not going to have the same flavor. So what they claim is...
Or color.
The color comes from the barrels.
Oh, that's true.
But what they claim is that the big tequila companies that sell to liquor stores and bars and so forth, well, they're not going to let the plants grow for 8 years. They're going to harvest them much sooner than that. And so as a result, they get a weaker product. And what they have to do is add a lot of things like methanol to it to make it more like liquor, more drinkable.
Right.
And they add other things to it to make it sort of taste like real tequila. I have no idea if any of this is true, but it certainly could be. Anyway, so that's the pitch they give for theirs. And they had a number of different varieties. They had the white tequila, which is basically the plant has grown 8 to 10 years. They make it, then they make the tequila from it. They just bottle it immediately. The other varieties, they would take that same distilled tequila, but they would put it in oak casks or oak barrels, have it aged between, I think this was 2 years in the barrel, and that's why it has the brown color. That's kind of like the color of whiskey. And then there were other varieties that were like 6 years in the barrel or something like that. And so, also the oak barrel, like with whiskey or anything like that, also imparts flavor into it. So, the guy who was selling it said that this variety was his favorite. It does, to me, taste a bit like whiskey.
It does.
It's not the kind of thing you're going to do shots with, although I'm sure some people would, but I wouldn't.
And it was our anniversary that day.
It was our anniversary.
And so that was our gift to us.
So we bought an expensive bottle of tequila. Whether we were taken advantage of or not, I don't know.
We're helping the local economy.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing, of course, is that, it's a local company you're helping out.
Right.
I got to be honest. I don't care. If it was all I'm going to say is to some person with an anonymous name on Reddit claiming it's a scam, I don't know that you know any more than I do about it.
Yeah, Brad.
So, Brad. Karen. So why do you assume it was a guy?
I know. I don't know.
So I will say, when I did Google it after we got back, I didn't see anyone mention this specific brand.
Right.
They were talking more about the fact that there are a number of varieties of tequila that they sell this way in touristy locations in Mexico. So it could be that there's a little bit of embellishment that goes on when they sell it, or it could be that they're telling the truth and this actually is a better quality product. But it's more the memento value.
It is. And it actually tastes good.
It tastes good.
Yeah. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. So then from that excursion, then we were going to a lighthouse, which was stunning.
It really was.
Like 140 steps up to the top of it, and
and a couple of pauses along the way.
Pauses to look out the window, like.
No, I was going to say you looked out the window. I was trying to catch my breath.
No, that was. Hey, let's just take a break here and just like look out the window. We did make it to the top, but the treads were very steep, kind of thing, and it was very narrow kind of thing. Then once you got to the top, it had like a little like door, almost like a doggy door that you had to go underneath to get to.
Picture a Dutch door, but it's just the bottom, not the top. So you had to go under.
I guess we're climbing underneath there to get to the outside so we can walk around. Stunning though, just really beautiful. You could see all the water there, and the water there is not swimmable because of the currents and stuff like that. So it was just pristine. Just beautiful.
And one thing I will say, I know we're running a little bit late, but one thing I will say, you were talking before about the snorkeling from the beach. The island itself is essentially a giant slab of limestone. I mean, there are trees and plants that grow in it, but it's, they don't have a lot of agriculture on the island because they can't really, it's not like soil that they can till.
Right.
But that also means that off of the beaches, sometimes there's these very large limestone rocks that can be difficult to get over, especially when the waves are coming in. If the water is deep enough to just swim over it, you're fine. But sometimes, it's a little bit shallow. And that area, you could see from the top of the lighthouse, you could see a lot of rocks right off the beach. And we had some of that near our resort, although there were areas where you could get out far enough on just plain sand and then swim over the rocks, and it wasn't very deep, so you could swim out to a sandbar and just stand.
And the water was like up to here.
Yeah.
So that was good because it was just like otherwise you couldn't have been able just to like go just a little bit into the water because it would just be too rocky.
Yeah, a little different than like in the Bahamas where we've been a few times where it's just beautiful, smooth sand. And you just walk right.
But still clear enough that you could see the rocks so that you can know what to swim over to get to where it was just sand. So that was good. And the other thing we saw there, which was amazing at the lighthouse, iguanas.
There were iguanas all over the place.
Huge. Just walking right there, like within an arm's reach. So we got some video of that, which was fun. So then I was thinking, like, is this the end of the tour? Like, what is next? Kind of thing. And then I chose to drive that time, and I was like, I'll drive to the next place. We had no idea where we were going.
We did.
And that was probably the longest drive. It was almost like a half hour.
Yeah.
But also cool because you're going through, like, you're driving in Mexico. I mean,
and you're driving along the beach, basically.
Yeah, and it was just stunning. Gorgeous. And sometimes you would get, like, a little thing where there'd be, like, a beach restaurant, shops, things like that, shops and things like that, fruit markets, and things. So then we went to the last place, which was making tamales. And then
it was a Mayan
village. A Mayan village, and then seeing how chocolate was made from the cocoa plant. So I was like, this is like so great. I mean, it was just like so fantastic. So we they had the little masa. Is that what the inside was? Right. They already had that made up, but we each had our own banana plant, and then you took your ball.
Banana leaf.
Oh yeah, banana plant.
Not a whole plant. Not a tree.
Banana leaf, and then you could spread out the masa, wrap it up, and then they had like a little, almost like a little stone with a number on it. So when they cooked it on the griddle for you, they could give yours that you just made back to you after you saw the chocolate thing. So we learned
all kinds of lovely they had all kinds of lovely different kinds of salsas.
And then we went into the other place that next door to that, and they talked about the cocoa bean and how they roast it, and they were roasting cocoa beans and they were mashing it, and we got to taste the fresh cocoa and cocoa that had like spices in it, like really
chilies
spicy.
in it. Yeah, it was very good.
So
I was tempted to say, our niece has a gelato shop in Chicago, and she makes a Mexican chocolate gelato that has chili in it.
Yes.
And it's really fantastic.
It's stunning.
Not chili like the beef and the beans. The chili's like peppers.
Chili
I don't know what this means. I think this is supposed to mean money.
Yeah.
But
if you're watching, we're
making money signs with our fingers.
So then once we were done with the chocolate, then our tamales were done. We tasted those and everything. And then our trip was done. And then we went back to the hotel. What a day.
It was
just
fun.
like, so like to have like so many excursions wrapped up into one thing, but also to be with such lovely people.
Yeah, everybody was really nice. We had a lot of fun.
Nice. And the women that we ended up taking a picture with them at the end. So we have that memento. We did not run into them the rest of the trip. They were staying at the resort two doors down for us, but we never.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So
we were hoping we would run into them. We did not. Then that night was the only night that we had to wait for a restaurant to get into.
Yeah.
We waited almost an hour. It was worth it.
That was a good restaurant.
But we just kind of like sat on the patio and had a few drinks while we waited for our table. But that whole day we didn't eat a lot. I mean, we had lunch, but then when we came back, it was late, and then we got ready and stuff like that. And so we didn't get dinner until almost 9 that night. And so that was, but it worked out.
It did work out. One thing I will point out about the Mayan village thing, and also they had Mayan dancers. They had Mayan dancers at the village thing and at the resort as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, a lot of people might be a little bit cynical about that because it seems kind of touristy, and it is, but it's also, I think, meant to be educational. And I go back to going to Cancun in the early 90s, actually before we met. And we were staying in a nice resort there, and we did a day trip to the ruins at Tulum, and then we snorkeled at Shellha, which we can talk about the next time. We can talk about snorkeling the next time. But on the way to Tulum, the tour bus pulled off at like this open air market that also happened to have bathrooms, which I think is partly why we pulled off. But we got there, the bus driver said, before you get out of the bus, just take a look at the people running these little shops and everything like that, working in the market. And just take a moment to look at them. He said, these people are Mayan. Look at their facial features. I don't mean to be crass about it, but, you could sort of identify by their appearance that they were Mayan. And his point was to say, Mayan people still exist. He's like, you guys all think of Mayans as part of the ancient past, but they're here.
Right.
He said they even use parts of the Mayan language. It's survived all these centuries. And he was trying to tell us, don't think of Mayan culture and Mayan people as part of the past. Like all indigenous people, we have a huge issue with that in the United States. Indigenous people are here now. They're part of our current thing. So I do think that some of this effort in Mexico, in places like, Cancun and Cozumel that are very resort tourist oriented.
Yes.
I do think part of it is, especially for people coming from other countries, is to kind of, incorporate the Mayan history of that part of Mexico into
culture, all that.
Yeah, and just, drive home the fact that Mayan people are here. They're part of the 21st century, not just part of history centuries ago. So I think whether it's touristy or not, I think there's value in saying, this is Mexico. This is part of Mexico. This is part of the current Mexico. Even though it's a historical look back at Mayan culture of the past, the point is that culture is still part of Mexico. Just like Native American culture is still part of American culture and First Nations culture in Canada and everything like that. So I think it's worth the effort. I think it's important. I think it's good for Americans to see that and also to recognize that it's not something from the distant past.
Right.
So that's my pitch on
I like that pitch.
the Mayan village.
So then the next day, Wednesday, was our anniversary. Our
anniversary was on Tuesday.
Our anniversary was on Tuesday. That's Tuesday.
It was the Jeep tour.
Yeah, it was a Jeep tour and
that's
the fancy dinner.
And that's why we bought the tequila.
Right. So I was trying to think what we did for dinner that
We've had very little of the tequila tonight.
Right.
So we're not wasted.
Yeah. So Tuesday night we had gotten a recommendation for a restaurant in downtown Cozumel to go to, and so we got dressed, went down there, and then I'd seen online the pictures. They had like a regular restaurant with chairs on the inside when you first walk in, but they had this beautiful garden that
really
was like
nice.
Indoor patio. but it was like outdoorsy. It had, it was open air, and it was kind of like they had all these plants, just beautifully decorated and everything. And they didn't take reservations, so we just said, they said, oh, you don't need to make a reservation, you're going to be fine. So when we got there, she said, oh, we don't have any seating in the patio. And my heart immediately sank. And I was just like, but she's like, we have these tables right here, which was fine. It would have been totally fine. The food was probably just as good and everything.
Well, it would have come from the same kitchen.
Right. But it just wasn't the ambiance for our anniversary that I wanted and everything. And so I had mentioned to the lady, oh, we're celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary today. So we start to sit down. Immediately, there's a table that came available in the patio. We didn't even barely sit down, and she's like, come on. So that worked out nice.
Yes. And the food was very good at this
my gosh,
place. It's
so
called
good.
Guido's. It's in this Cozumel, the Centro
and
area.
It's been there for like decades.
Yeah.
It's been there for a really long time.
And you had gotten a recommendation before. I think that was one of the places from the resort before we even went there. And then when we landed on that Saturday, we're driving from the airport to the resort. The cab driver points it out, not the cab driver, the guy from Amstar,
right?
The driver. Well, actually, it was a cab.
It was a cab,
but it was arranged to them, whatever. But he pointed out, so that's a really, really good Italian restaurant, and it was.
It was fantastic. So we had garlic bread, which was amazing.
Yeah.
It came out like almost like a base of a pizza, but it was just brushed with lots of butter and garlic and Parmesan cheese, and just so good. And then we got calamari for an appetizer that had like a spicy kind of like sauce on it.
Yeah, it was like guajillo. Is that the right how you say it?
Guajillo pepper.
Peppers.
Yes. We each got pasta, and then we had dessert and coffee. Totally reasonable for that amount of food, everything. Once we did the excursion, when we got back, I was like, oh my gosh, that was not bad at all. We would spend that, just going out to dinner around here. A nice dinner around here, not just a regular dinner. Anywho, so that was quite
Not
lovely.
Arby's.
Not Arby's.
Arby's would be more.
Yeah.
No, Arby's would be
so that worked out really good. And then Wednesday was a rest day.
Wednesday was an off day.
Yeah. So we spent time, and that was the other thing too, the seating that they had on the beach, pretty much from our resort all the way to not enough. So those seats were taken a lot, and people would reserve it, like putting their towel out there at the beginning of the day and stuff like that. And then people just camped out there pretty much all day. So it wasn't like an opportunity where you could like, oh, somebody's leaving, so I'll take that kind of thing. But it didn't matter because we just swam in the ocean and then came back.
We just threw their stuff. If they weren't there, we took the towels off their clothes, or maybe we just threw it in the ocean
and took their seat.
Like
George,
Mr. Kruger.
Oh yeah, on Seinfeld. So then Wednesday night pizza. We did the pizza. So they had a pizza.
But how much of this do we want to go into, given that it's already...
Oh, we're already an hour. Yeah. And maybe we could do a part 2.
We'll do a part 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember.
We're supposed to have these conversations before...
All of a sudden, it's like 3 hours. Yeah. 3 hours long, and it's like, hey, Jen.
I was wondering when this was going to end.
What is happening? Okay, I'm going to make a note that we have to talk about snorkeling.
We have to talk about pizza, because we had some good pizza.
Yep.
Snorkeling. We had to talk about
karaoke.
We had to talk. Oh my god! Yeah, you can't go into karaoke.
I can't. It's too long.
And drop that in like 30 seconds.
No, you can't.
We used to do only like half an hour.
I know.
Now we're
I wasn't even paying attention. I'm having so much fun.
I was trying to because we're
trying to get off of here for like the last.
Right, because we videotape and I didn't want to be too obvious and point to the time on the...
We're at 57 minutes.
Whereas normally you're trying to wrap up before I'm like, show. wait, I have more to say.
Right, I'm like, that's our show. Okay, so this is part 1. We'll do a part 2 of our trip because it gets better.
Maybe let's not celebrate with tequila the next time.
Right. No, we will. But thanks if you made it this. Yeah, if you made it this far, thank you very much. If you have any questions about our vacation or anything about us,
or our rookie mistake, which we talked
exactly.
about at the beginning.
If you also got rooked into that on a vacation, we can commiserate about that.
And if you have any opinions about tequila that they sell in these places, please just keep it to yourself. Right?
We bought it already.
Don't be a buzzkill.
Right. So thank you very much. And then we'll talk to you the next time for part 2. Good night.
Good night.